hasn't missed any work in this leading group of 5 riders, which is down. We're inside of 5 minutes now. The motorbikes getting out of the way. So rather sad to see the abandon there of the world champion Rui Costa. That crash coming halfway down the main field. These crashes are because of the nervousness, because of the fatigue that's starting to creep into the riders. The last German rider, by the way, to win Liège-Bastogne-Liège was back in 1979, and that was Didi Tura.
Okay, so I've just been chatting away for the past few minutes. Whilst even realising that the microphone was not connected. So I've kind of just been talking to myself.
So there's the man who's been the most consistent, number 182 on the climbs. He was the first over Côte de la Roche, first over the Côte de
So as I
Saint-Roch,
mentioned,
Côte de Wanne, Côte de Stocker, and the Côte de
which nobody could hear.
Will he survive now, Peter Jacobs, to be the first man to go over the Côte de la Vicky?
I'm going to
Scuttling back,
not going to stay
203
to stay because I made
is
this morning.
Iker Kamano of Team NetApp.
And I'm going to stop heading for the race begins.
This is the lull before the storm. Also, just caught a quick glimpse of one of the riders from Team Sky hanging out at the back. As I think the calm now starts to come into this race. Little indication there from Michael Rogers just to show there's a little bit of traffic furniture on the road furniture, which makes it very difficult and dangerous for professional bike riders all over the world these days. 71 kilometers, 4 minutes and 55 seconds. As we look at these live images of the 100th edition of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, as we go through the small town of Rouy. Next we'll go past the Moulin de Rouy, which is the windmill of Rouy, before coming down onto the main road again of the National 633 and into the town of La Glaise. And that's when we'll start to line ourselves up for the next big climb of the day, Côte de la Vicky. There's Richie Port there sitting at the back. Now, Richie Port probably missing out on his mate who did not start this morning, Chris Froome, the Kenyan-born British rider who was hoping to ride well in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and a number of people said, well, quite possibly Froome could be one of the surprise performers in this. But as they came out of the hotel this morning, we were told that, in fact, he's got a little bit of a chest infection, which he didn't want to aggravate because of the cold temperature. It dropped down to around about 12 degrees Celsius in the heart of the Ardennes. Just looking at BMC. Peter Velits, who's sitting on the front there, stamping out the pace for Slovakia and Team BMC. For him, he's very concerned about doing as much work as possible for Philippe Gilbert. Steve Cummins, who did a lot of work in the first part of this race, has now disappeared. And I notice a lot of riders in blue and white jerseys.
Another 20 seconds lower, 30, 40 seconds.
For their man Roman Krujciger, who was involved in an accident just a little bit earlier on, but they managed to get him safely back into the main field.
So, pissed off right now.
Well, we're getting confirmation coming over race radio as well that in fact Joaquim Rodriguez has also pulled out of the race. So a number of pre-race big favourites are pulling out, one because of injuries from a previous race, of course is Joaquim Rodriguez, and Rui Costa because of an injury experienced here in this race. So rather sad to see the world champion have to pull out like that, as we're inside of 70 kilometres to go, inside of 5 minutes of racing left.
See, that's quite an answer.
Bit of a blow to the Lamprey squad, who've been dogged by injury in this early part of the year as well, because just on a training crash a little while back, Chris Horner, the winner of the Vuelta a España, was riding through a tunnel when somebody knocked him off his bike, and obviously he ended up in hospital in intensive care. Far side there, number 91, Bout Mollema. He could be the man to do it for that team a little bit later on. As I said, he placed well in the Amstel Gold Race. But look at the organisation now of Saxo Tinkoff. They don't want to do too much at this point, but watch out for a little move coming from them as we start to get a bit closer to the Côte de la Vicky. Velits is the man on the front. Brilliant professional bike rider, Velits. Well, as we mentioned earlier, Chris Froome didn't start start of the day, and neither too did Peter Kenyuk, which is a little bit of a surprise. And Richie Port has been sitting quite happily at the back end of the field. Now, is he here for training, or is he here just to keep himself out of trouble? And if he feels good on the running towards the finish, come up towards the front of this race and have a little bit of a crack, because the decision is very often made on the Côte de la Roche au Faucon, the Rock of the Falcons. Number 4, rider Hazedal, also quite happy to sit at the back end of the pack. Oric Green Edge Simon Clark going forward to answer a nature break. There is Vandenbroek, 121. He was suffering. He was really in difficulty when he went over the top there of the climb of the Côte de Haute-Levée, but he's managed to drag himself back into the event. And there's Miguel Angel Rubiano over on the left-hand side, the Colombian rider. National Road Racing Champion, title which he took just a couple of weeks ago. Lots of work being done now. 68 kilometers to go, 4:55. It seems to be locked in a bit now. They're no longer chasing as it was organized earlier on, but I think they're waiting for the next vital part of these few climbs that the race will throw up at them. So, Etienne Quebecer, happy to have a man in that leading group, I would suggest. And these men, they realize that once we start to get to the next few climbs, the next climbs on the horizon are going to be the Côte de la Vecchie, which is the 6th climb of the day, followed by the Côte de la Redoute, which is famous for every professional bike rider. They've seen it so many times on television. The approach through the town of Remouchon, and then the long ascent of 2.5 kilometers. And Etienne Quebecer, not only, as we look here at Rennes, are riding not only in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but they've also got a very strong squad making a return to the Tour of Turkey, which is probably in the warmer climbs of this year's of this day's racing in Europe. A race that Mark Cavendish is actually part of event to hone his speed. He decided this year not to participate in the Giro d'Italia, leaving that to one side. Feeling maybe that in the past it might have fatigued him a little bit leading up to his sprinting for the Tour de France, which is what's going to be his main goal for this season.
They should be in like the teens or the 20s now.
So the climb at the end of this race is the one that everybody talks about, is the Côte de Saint-Nicolas, but not very many people talk about the final climb of the day, which is not actually a categorized climb. It's the climb up to the town of Alps, which is right nestled up against the motorway to Brussels. And that climb itself is a climb of around about 1.5 kilometers, and very often that's where the decision for the final victory comes out. But to get there, you've got to climb over the Côte de la Roche au Faucon first, followed by Saint-Nicolas, and then hopefully be in with a chance when it comes up to this final climb of the day, up to Alps. And then once you turn left into the final 300 meters, it's actually completely flat. And that's when, if you've got some sprinting ability, you've got to wait until the final moment. And that's how Dan Martin got himself the victory last year. Says Pierre Roland in 3rd position behind Velits. But certainly, I have to say that Saxo Tinkoff are paying a great deal of attention here this afternoon. Sutherland is riding the race for Saxo Tinkoff. I haven't spotted him so far, but he's never far away from doing plenty of work. Europe Car have decided they're going to do some pacemaking, but the gap has suddenly crept up a fraction. Just looking there at Kevin Retzer, the rider in 3rd position for Team Europcar. Although he lives in Versailles, he actually hails from the island of Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. As we continue now, the roads here in this part of Belgium are very, very good. as we get a chance here to see the difference in styles between the leading group of 5 on the left-hand side and the peloton on the right-hand side. Velic's doing quite a lot of work. He's quite happy to do the pacemaker. They sacrificed in the first part of the race. They sacrificed Steve Cummings quite a bit. Velic's moving across there. He's the national time trial champion of Slovakia, by the way, as opposed to the national road racing champion, who is Peter Sagan. He moved across from Omega Pharma Quickstep during the winter transfer season to become an integral part of Team BMC. He's a solid worker. One of his great performances was he was the World Under-23 road racing champion back in 2007 and finished second overall in the Vuelta a España back in 2010. So the leaders now are on the Côte de la Viquet, a climb of 3.1 kilometers, an average gradient of 6%. And it's on this climb a couple of years ago that Alexander Vinokourov went out to get himself a victory, attacked on this climb with a certain Jens Voigt, the Jensi as they call him.
What the hell's no weak power then?
So, as you can see, there's a little bit of a slowing in the peloton. A few riders scrambling at the back, where the legs now starting to scream out for a little bit of respite, a little bit of rest. There is no rest in the Ardennes. These roads are now, from here right the way down towards the finish, are up and down for the whole of the afternoon. Europcar are doing a good job of work at the front. They obviously feel that their man Pierre Rolland has got very good legs. I wonder how Thomas Voeckler is feeling this afternoon. Voeckler had a quiet start to the season with nothing really to shout home about, but Voeckler is pretty much not part of the main core of those Europcar riders we're looking at. Redza is in 3rd position. Pierre Rolland is in 5th position. Behind him, it's the other rider from Europcar is Peric Kemener, a real Breton name. As we start to look a little bit further back, Saxo Tinkoff, Saxo Bank are very present at the front end of the main field. There will be, the next big battle will start to come as we line up for the Côte de la Redoute. Everybody realizes that's the big battle. It's a long climb as well, long and steep. 2.5 kilometers, that's 7.5%. It goes up alongside the E25 motorway, which goes from Liège right the way down towards the area of Luxembourg. The Duchy of Luxembourg. Number 88, the Finnish national champion there on the FDJ squad in the white jersey with a blue stripe on it, blue cross on it, and that's Jussi Vaikkonen. FDJ, very much a French squad. The team manager, Frank Pinault, has got 7 French riders on the start line this morning, and Vaikkonen, the sole foreigner creeping into the French squad. Just looking at the style here of coach number 154, it's starting to look a little bit more laboured now. This is a long climb, as you can see. It's a long, steady climb, the Côte de la Viquet. It's been reintroduced this year, which is why a number of riders came down here to have a look. Most of the riders have stayed in this region for a good 10 days now, because they came up here, installed themselves, many in Holland for the Amstel Gold Race in the city of Maastricht on the Maas. Came to look at the course for the Flèche Wallonne, and also came to have a quick look at the circuit for Liège-Bastogne-Liège. 63 kilometers to go now, 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Concentration now, a lot of riders moving forward in the light blue jerseys of Garmin Sharp. Looking around, Tony Martin is still there in the Omega Pharma Quickstep jersey. Peter Velits in the red and black jersey. Kevin Redza is there for Europcar. Pierre Rolland is the 3rd place rider, looking very nervous as he battles to stay in the front end of the main field. They now know that once they come into this little town here, this is the town of Stourmont, they take this right-hand turn, there it is, and now they start the climb of the Côte de la Viquet. There it is. If you go straight on, in fact, you carry on down the road towards the town of Remouchon, and that is where we'll find, in about 20 minutes' time, the Côte de la Redoute. So look how much that gap has dropped down as well there. It's dropped down pretty dramatically there to around about 4 minutes. Just on the right-hand side there is the Colombian rider on Team BMC, and that's John Atapuma. Good man to bring onto the squad for a little bit later on as well. Back of the main field, Vaikkonen is struggling a little bit. He wants to stay in contact with this peloton. This is when the decanting process starts. The riders with the slightly weaker legs slowly start to slip to the back end of the main field. No more energy left to fight and get back up towards the top end of the sharp end of the peloton. Mick Rogers there looking quite comfortable for his first race back. Must have been a long, hard psychological winter for Mick Rogers. Wondering how the Court of Arbitration was going to respond to that positive test for clenbuterol in the Japan Cup. But eventually in fact, rather strange because the International Cycling Union warned riders not to eat meat when they went to the Tour of Beijing because of the possibility of tainting it with clenbuterol. And I think they made the right decision where Mick Rogers was concerned, and he's very happy now to be back in racing, getting himself in form and ready for a big attack on the Tour de France later on in the year. Well, Rui Costa crashed out and quit the race. Abrasions and bruising to his shoulder is being announced on race radio, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that later on. So it's bad luck. There's Rory Sutherland. We'll be looking for him for a while. He's the big Tinkoff Saxo rider just in the middle of the group there. He'd be looking after Roman Kreuziger. He was delayed a little earlier on by a crash of the Czech rider, but I don't think he was injured by that, and he was quickly helped and escorted back into the main field by his team. Got 500 meters to go to the summit of the Côte de la Vecchie. Now, one rider has won all 5 summits we've been over so far, and that's Peter Jacobs. He's currently sitting in 3rd position. Yes, the Belgians are all out to support the race this afternoon. Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the oldest professional bike race on the calendar, 1892. First organised. There's Sutherland. Rider coming through there for Europcar is Kemener. That's next rider through, Pierre Roland. 196, Kevin Redza. 2002, Cesare Benedetti. Lots of nervousness now. The Trek factory racing rider moving forward. Wondering whether or not there's going to be any performance from Frank Schleck this afternoon. That was Bob Jungels. 3 riders from Luxembourg on that squad. Frank and Andy Schleck and Bob Jungels, who is the national champion. As we go back with the lead of 3.5 minutes, it's really now starting to crumble that advantage that these riders had, which at one stage was up in the 16-minute margin.
Yeah, probably to the big ring now.
A pity Carlos Betancourt was not here at the start this morning, the Colombian rider on AG2R. He, like Chris Froome, pulling out on the start date, and rumours coming to us, and there's no way of being absolutely certain, but we are told that he actually attended the team meeting in the team bus this morning and didn't come out because he could felt that little tickling on his shoulder. The fact that it was 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, he decided he was not going to come out and ride the race.
45.
Kreuziger, former winner of the Amstel Gold Race, so he's the rider who's got the right skills. Is Anke Sorensen with the yellow. Speed riding in excess of 30 kilometers an hour on the slopes of this climb, which is, as I said, a 3.5 kilometer climb at around about 6% the average gradient. But this is serious stuff now that Mickey Rogers is starting to dish out. Louis Menches at the back of the group. Daniel Teclamanot of Eritrea is also starting to struggle a bit, but at least Etienne Kebeka from South Africa have got a rider in that leading 5-man breakaway. He's been there right from the 12th kilometer of the race. So 2 Australians now starting to really turn up the screws. It's good to see Mick Rogers is back. As I say, it must have been a very difficult psychological winter for Mick Rogers, wondering wouldn't he be allowed to come back sport, and I think finally we've seen that decision is right, as got another Australian up alongside him, and they really are, look at that, they really are putting some pressure on the front end of that main field. It's inside of 3 minutes. That's about 2 minutes wiped away by the two Australians, Sutherland and Mickey Rogers. This is their prey, but I don't think they're too worried about that. I think the two Aussies at the front of the main field, what they're doing currently, putting the pressure on, making it more difficult in the main field, setting up the foundations for a move to come a little bit later on from their man Roman Kreuziger, who, as we saw earlier, was involved in a little bit of a crash, delayed by the crash, but fought himself back into the main field. That was around about the Côte d'Oine. No panic. Look at this, Rogers. He's in the white sunglasses, looks over, he looks calm as a cucumber, as they would say in English. Looks across at his teammate there. They're just chatting away, but they are having a serious effect on the front end of this race. The leading group of five are now inside of the 3-minute margin. 3 times a world champion, Mick Rogers. I think he would have had the yellow jersey in the Tour de France a number of years ago if he hadn't crashed out and broken his collarbone, tried to carry on, but just could not continue with a broken collarbone. He's taking a back seat now, but he's gone back to have a quick chat with his teammate Rory Sutherland, who's the 3rd place rider from Tinkoff Saxo. But the one man, if we're talking about shouting or waving the flag for Australia, I think the Australians would wave the flag for Simon Gerrans. Orica Greenidge, I think, were very clever in their preparation for this race. They saw how Gerrans rode in the Amstel Gold Race just a little while ago, just last week on Sunday.
Okay, got
And
another
they said, no, we're not going to put you. There's Gerrans over on the
race at
right-hand
6
side.
p.m.
He's off on cue. You can see
which
the
is
yellow
the
shoulders on
Ironman
his
St
jersey
George
there.
route
Sitting on the wheel
with
of
their
Philippe
Samuel.
Gilbert. Now, he didn't ride the midweek race at Flèche-Wallonne. Philippe Gilbert rode the race, but I don't think it dug too deep into his reserves. They were all holding something back for this event. So watch out for Simon Gerrans. This is an ideal kind of race for him. So we'll talk about Gerrans a little bit later on. So as we start to rejoin the leaders, I have to say, nice to see South Africans with Etienne Quebecer as their team, but also Jacobus Ventner also in that leading group for Etienne Quebecer. There's a lot of riders from that squad having a tough time at the back. It's difficult when you're a team trying to break through. You get selected for a top race like the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but you also want to put your good team into a race like the Tour of Turkey, which is over on the far side of Europe just now. Long line of the main peloton now as it starts to stretch out. We're now at 56 kilometers to go, and that puts us 12 kilometers, 10 kilometers, shall I say, from the start of the Côte de la Redoute. You'll start to see some serious action now starting to take place as all of the teams try to place their riders in a nice position to start the Côte de la Redoute, a climb that Philippe Gilbert really does like. It's just down the road from his house, Remouchon. He was actually born in Verviers, which is not too far away from Liège, but he regards Remouchon as being home ground and home turf now.
Four people to pass.
Bellex has slipped down towards the back. BMC. Here, BMC looking after their leader, Philippe Gilbert, while on the other side of Europe this week, one Australian's had an excellent week of racing, and that, of course, is Cadel Evans coming out with a victory, put into a great position by his team, who dominated the team time trial in the Giro del Trentino, and Cadel then took the overall lead and never looked back after that. 46 kilometers to go, so 6 kilometers for the leading group of 5 riders to the start of the Côte de la Redoute. And the race organisation, who were pulling all the cars out of that gap a few moments ago, could very well be quite right there, because they didn't want any cars in the gap as we started to approach the Côte de la Redoute. There's the Eritrean rider just sitting down towards the back there, Daniel Teklahamonot, 226. Interesting story, because in fact the rider from Eritrea was invited to Aigle, which is not too far from Geneva or Lausanne, which is the headquarters of the World Cycling Union, the Union Cycliste Internationale, and he was part of the development squad for international cyclists, and he improved over the years to get himself a position on an international team with Etienne Quebecer. He's a very good rider. He rode
So they'll
a
get
season
stuck with
or
that
two
blue.
ago for Orica Greenedge. But I think now it's taken a little while for him to start to develop. But here he is riding right at the top of his game in a race like Liège-Bastogne-Liège. More respite. Mick Rogers in the middle with the white sunglasses. Tony Martin over to the left-hand side. Two brilliant World Time Trial Championship. No, there's Dan Martin now. He's the third-place rider in the Garmin Shark colours there. You can see these riders now getting that little bit nervous as they start to realise, yep, this is the moment. This is the time when we're going to start to line ourselves up for the Côte
That's struggling right now.
famous climb. Scary climb if you're
That's
not a
not even
climber,
11%
because
gradient.
although it says it's 7.5% average for 2.3 kilometers, well, it really is a little bit nasty. Around the corners it gets to 15 and 16%.
I can feel my left
Talking a little bit about the
hamstring
Tour
wants
of Turkey, which
cramp.
took place today.
So I've got to
A
be extra
circuit
careful.
race around Alanya, 140 kilometers. Well, the winner, and this may well be good news for the riders from Omega Pharma Quickstep. In fact, it was Mark Cavendish who's got his season back on track, winning the opening stage of the Presidential Tour of Turkey ahead of Elia Viviani and Theo Bos of Team Belkin. So Cavendish has gone down there, and he's hoping that that will set him up for a good Tour de France this year. The Château de Haut-Regard, a high look, is what that means when it's translated. And there's a beautiful H hedge right in the middle of the chateau grounds. It's now a fully functioning farm. And as you can see, the main field not taking any notice of it at all as they wing their way by. 50 kilometers now to go to the finish. About an hour and 15 minutes, 2.5 minutes. That's not a very big main field.
Before the descent. Otherwise I never will.
2:35. So obviously, as we look there, there's the South African national champion just sitting in the back there, Louis Menches. Getting a taste of the big time here. Nice to see the South African national champion's jersey. There's Garmin. That's Romanas Novadauskas. He's the rider from Lithuania, former winner of the under-23 version of this event. Pierre Roland is the rider from Europcar in third position. Lots of nervousness now. Now's the time when there's going to be a big battle for positions. The dark blue jerseys and the lime green, Movistar looking around their shoulders, looking for Alejandro Valverde. Cofidis also trying to keep their men up towards the front end of this pack. This is not the moment to think about touching your brakes. At a moment like this, you touch your brakes in this line of riders, you'll drop back 15 or 20 positions. Having battled and used so much energy to be in the top 14 or 15 places, all of a sudden you've wasted all that energy and you've got to do it all once again. Down the descent, 48 kilometers to go, about 3 or 4 kilometers to Remouchon, across the town, over the bridge, over the river, and then through the little neighborhood, and that's when the Côte de la Redoute starts. Michael Koch coming through there for Cannondale in the lime green. Pirmin Lang of IAM Cycling in the blue, black and red. You just might have seen 72 kilometers an hour. You see they're quite banging on down this descent as they come away from the little plateau, the main field, and not too far back after either 2.5 minutes. That's around about 1.5 kilometers in actual distance between the leading group of 5 and the main field, which is not a lot of riders. Not many of the 197 riders who actually started this race. We've been through Bastogne in the heart of the province of Luxembourg. We've been right the way through the hilly part. We've been over the first 6 climbs of the day: the Côte de la Roche, Santa Roche, Wanne, Stokke, Haute-Levée, Côte de la Vecque, and now we're just crossing the river. This is a cycling referee's red car now being pulled out of the gap. These five won't have to battle for position as they start at Côte de la Redoute because they will be able to pick their way through the crowds. But behind there will be a serious battle to try and find a good position for the start of the Côte de la Redoute. Round the roundabout, through the neighborhood, these roads known extremely well to Philippe Gilbert. And I'm sure once we get to the slopes of the climb, you'll start to see written from the bottom right the way to the top, Phil, Phil, Phil. Phil is not for le King Philippe of the Belgians, but for Philippe Gilbert. Left-hander, a little bit further on a right-hander. As they make their way through these few last little townhouses, they will then open up into the fields, and that's when the Côte de la Redoute will start. 2.5 minutes is still the advantage. Oh. These riders have led this race since the 12th kilometer. They built a lead of 16 minutes at one stage, and now they've seen it crumble to just 2 minutes and 20 seconds. They know what it's going to be like. It's going to be crazy once they get onto the slopes of this climb. As I said, the 7.5%. Horrible climb, actually, because it's one of those climbs, it's as if you've taken a high lift jack. It starts off with a nice steady gradient, and as you get higher up towards the summit, it's as if somebody's jacked it up. It gets steeper and steeper. Then once over the top, you're out into the area of the fields where there is no trees left to protect you from the wind, which then begins to batter you. 2 kilometers to go, 8.9%. The town of Remouchon, to see if we can see. There are the lead motorbikes. A quick look there at the Château de Montjardin, the mountain of the garden. There's the main field. Pulling out all the stops now this afternoon. They'll all be getting motivated, all be getting concentrated over this bridge. They've been over it many times before. They've done it this week in training. A little bit further up, you'll have a chance to look over to the right-hand side. There you can just about see the motorway. But by the way, that really is a motorway, an expressway, if you like. You're not supposed to stop your cars on there, but today it is a parking lot. It's a car park. It is full of spectators who have come out to see this race this afternoon. Starting to struggle a little bit, Michael Koch of Team Cannondale. Team Sky supported there over the right-hand side. That's simply the best. Well, it wasn't a great day for Chris Froome, the winner of the Tour de France last year, who was not able to come out, suffering from a slight chest infection. It may well be that the Côte de la Redoute is one climb a little bit too far for the 22-year-old German rider who slips away from this lead group. Now down to 4 men. 2 minutes is the gap. We've just gone through the small town of Sounier-Remouchon, which is the village where Philippe Gilbert now calls home, as we look at Tony Martin on the right-hand side. Look at the difference in the speed. The leading group of 4, their gap now is inside of 2 minutes. Tony Martin trying to set it up for his man. He'll be third in the line, the red and white jersey, the Polish national champion, Kwiatkowski. Also, the Belkin riders in the lime green. They'll be looking after Wout Mollema. Kwiatkowski having a quick chat with his teammate there, looking very calm. On the right-hand side is Pierre Roland.
And it's start doing
lots of chatting going on here. It's inside of 2 minutes. They've got around about 2 kilometers now to go to the top of the climb themselves. Koch is there. He cannot stay in contact with these riders. And the problem is, it's one of those nasty climbs. Once you get over the top, you can't accelerate anymore because it's a false flat. I told you that was what we'd see, and there it is. Phil. And of course, that's Philippe Gilbert. Pierre Roland in the middle, the dark green jersey of Europcar. Kwiatkowski. There is Thomas Voeckler now, bobbing away over on the left-hand side. Tony Martin is the rider on the front. Dark glances, hiding his eyes, but the concentration is there. He knows he's got to keep this pressure going. It's a tough old climb, this one. Crowds being kept back by the barriers. We get to the top, plenty of black, yellow and red, the flag of Belgium. The next man to succumb to the pace here on the slopes of the Côte de la Redoute is the rider from IAM Cycling, Hermin Lang, the Swiss rider, slowly slipping away. Then there were 3. It's Matteo Bono on the front, the Italian rider on Team Lampre. He's got the legs. He will have ridden this climb there this week in training. Nice to see that the South African rider is still in contact. Slipping away, the man who's been the most consistent on the climbs now, 182. Peter Jacobs. Well, as the main field, they are taking this climb in their stride. Still, Tony Martin, first position. Pierre Rolland in third position in the dark green jersey. No. Down to 2. Or is it down to 1? It looks like now go over the top of the Côte de la Redoute. There's been no major reaction though in the main field. Tony Martin, there can't really be much of a movement when Tony Martin sets the tempo on the front, because he'll set a tempo that is just so difficult that nobody will be able to attack.
Hold on again.
Minute and 40 seconds. Nathan Haas is the rider now in the middle. Just over to the left-hand side, the other rider from Garmin Sharp is last year's winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Dan Martin. Just sitting there on his teammates to do the pacemaking. Life at the back. A nice place to be. Number 68, Peter Velets, he did a lot of work. The leader now, who leads this race with 44 kilometers to go. Matteo Bono really has plummeted quite a lot. Bono, the peloton is at 1 minute 30. Now there's a move coming. Now this is the man that I talked about earlier on in the race. This is Warren Bonguilla. He rides for Giant Shimano. He's a great rider, rode exceptionally well. I suppose you could say it was a discovery last year of the Vuelta a España. He won 2 stages in the Tour of Spain last year, stages 13 and 16.
That the winner is
he's 21 years of age. He's a youngster, a new man on the block for France. He's not scared of the Côte de la Redoute, and bang, there he comes straight out of the pack. Everybody else surviving there. Karsten Kroon, 114, Saxo Tinkoff at the back of the group, but the front is where the action is. 2013 Vuelta stage winner, not scared of the big mountains. There is the man from Cannondale, struggling the gap. Minute 30. You can see the motorway in the bottom there. That's the motorway that takes the riders from the edge right the way down to Luxembourg. Now, in the main field, they've allowed that acceleration to go. There's a move coming. No.
Clearly.
Now the big acceleration is starting to come.
Slightly, looks like rise. Like,
they've actually reacted to that move by the Frenchman Bargoy. They've realized that he has got great climbing legs, and there is a reaction now starting to come behind.
Which means
Valverde is right up there.
Before it turns yellow.
So now you can start to see this is interesting move now as we head over the top of the Côte de la Redoute. The accelerations are starting to come. And 164 is Tony Martin. Job done for the day. He can take a back seat and find the shortest direction back to Liège, quite possibly, here this afternoon. Now, this is Arredondo, the rider in second or third position for Trek Factory Racing. He's a Colombian rider on that squad. Looking over the shoulder, Bargoy saying, come on lads, this is a good move here. Let's not take advantage of the moves that's going to come from riders like Philippe Joubert. We will do our own tactics here this afternoon. Second place rider on the road. This is the rider who rides for MTN Quebeca. It's Jacobus Venter. And he's just about to make the junction with the lone leader now, Matteo Bono. That makes it 2 men at the front. They're over the top now of the Côte de la Redoute. They'll get themselves back onto the main road shortly with a right-hand turn. But they've only got a minute and 22 seconds over the front end of the peloton.
So they're quite a bit more aerodynamic.
So 2 men lead the race. The race referee in the red car is pulling in behind the leaders. That means they've got more than 30 seconds over the chasers. Well, Jacobs is in 3rd place on the road at around about 20 seconds. Here he is, 182, trying to keep himself in contact in this race.
9 meters climbing.
Number 154, Kurt, is a little bit further back. And So 131, Warren Barguil is the rider in the black and white jersey. And the next rider in there, Omega Pharma Quickstop, is Jan Bakeland. And Arredondo is in there for Colombia. But the main field are not very far behind. It just goes to show the youngsters in this race don't have any fear of the reputations of the big men. Look at the long line of the main field now as they're stretched out, everybody over to the right-hand side. The wind is obviously coming from the left, pushing the riders right up against the edge of the road. A minute 17. 40 kilometers to go very shortly once we turn onto the main road over the summit of the Côte de la Redoute and start to come into the small town of Esprimont as we head then down towards the Côte de Forges. Now looking back, you can see the peloton stretched out across the road. They know they've pretty much got their prey in their sights, in the crosswire as they start to spread out. They know now that there's an hour of racing left, but in that last hour of racing there are 3 climbs. I would say there are 4 climbs really, because we've got Côte de Forges, the Côte de Rochefoucauld, the Côte de Saint-Nicolas, and the final climb of the day up here to the town of Alps.
Effing ridiculous.
Trying to keep it going, but not going anywhere at all. 2 leaders then. Oh, 2 men who were in that leading breakaway. One of them is Matteo Bono, joined by Jacobus Venter of Team MTN Quebec. Scrambling a little bit over on the right-hand side. This is the 3rd place rider on the road, 182. I think he's realized now he's not going to get across. When we look at the Tête de la Course on the left-hand side, we've got a South African leading Liège-Bastogne-Liège at 41 kilometers to go. A minute and 15 seconds is his lead. That's around about a kilometer on the road between the leading 2 riders and the peloton. And look how much that race has been broken up once again by the Côte de la Redoute. That's the right-hand turn onto the main road. A minute 13. Jacobs is at 30 seconds. He's halfway across the gap, so 500 meters between him and the leading 2, and then 500 meters back to the main peloton. The organization with this Côte de Forges have made it a very difficult approach to the Côte de Rochefoucauld. Now it's Orica Green Edge coming to the front, looking over their shoulders, looking to figure out whether or not they're going to get some assistance now. This is the 2 leaders, Bono. Well, this is 3rd and 4th on the road. In fact, this is IAM Cycling, and this is Lang, who's joined up with Jacobs. They're at 3rd and 4th on the road. They're not much further than 30 seconds. But every time we go around these corners in the town of Esprimont, you're hoping as a rider in this move that you can see the 2 riders in front. These are the 2 leaders now. Bono in the purple and the blue jersey of Lampre. Venter of MTN Quebec riding a very good race. Bear in mind, these riders have been at the front of this race since 10 o'clock this morning. They've been in the saddle for almost 6 hours of racing, and still they've got energy to keep pounding away to conserve a little bit of their advantage. Bakeland was quite aggressive going across that gap there with Warren Barguil, the young Frenchman, 21 years of age on the Giant Shimano squad. We look now at 2nd and 3rd on the road, about 500 meters separating them from the front end of the peloton. Race time, 5 hours and 45 minutes. Around about 1 hour to go as we look at the 2 leaders on the left-hand side. They've gone through the town of Esprimont. Now into the small town of Teux. We're in the region of Teux, and we'll be lining up very, very quickly in about 7 kilometers time for the Côte de Forges. Lots of moves now, lots of little trying attacks to see if everybody's got the power. Looking down that line to see if I can spot Simon Gerrans. He was in a good position coming into the start of the Côte de la Redoute. Dark green jersey there is Pierre Roland. 45 seconds. The two chasers will very shortly get picked up by the main field. That's only 20 seconds. That's around about 300 meters separating the two chasers who are in second and third and fourth position. Jacobs and Lang. Very shortly, that what remains of the main peloton there will start to see the two chasers, but the leaders are still holding on to in excess of 1 minute. Now the next climb there you can see the deviation of all the motorbikes coming up to get in behind the race once again. The race organisation don't like all the motorbikes to go down these narrow roads, so every now and again there's a deviation for them to catch up and get behind the race. Big power now at 38 kilometers to go. So the two leaders, Bono and Venter, looking at 1 minute and 10 seconds, and it won't be long between the third and fourth riders on the road get picked up by the front end of the main field. So very good move, though, I have to say, over the top of the Côte de la Redoute by Barguil and Bacalance. This goes to show that they were ready for that move as they went over the top, but now it's Orica Green Edge moving to there's Simon Gerrans, number 71. Lightning is low, getting rid of that bottle. He's got a couple of teammates still in the race with him, so that's important when you come into the final part of this race. There's a lot of riders there from Movistar looking after Alejandro
That's
Valverde.
not a good race.
The national champion of Spain is still there, Jesus Herrada. So these are the chasers. There's a quick look there at the rider from IAM. That's Lang. Again, this will be a little quiet before the storm. The climb of Côte de Forges, again, is quite a long climb. It's a straight climb. It's a former Roman road. Straight as a die. It's a horrible climb because you get it with a little bit of impetus, but then once you get halfway up the climb, you lose.
Let's just say close this down.
And then you've got to start to battle with the gradient. BMC. Lots of confidence from them and Felician there. They realise that this is a good chance for him. Sammy Sanchez was in difficulty a little bit earlier on. I'd expected to see a good ride by Sammy Sanchez, the former Olympic champion, who rides for BMC, who was picked up towards the end of
that was an annoying race.
when his team
First of all,
continuing their sponsorship.
I didn't stop moving for about 30-35 seconds.
So it's half a minute now is the gap to the two chasers.
That's a
fraction, but
waste energy trying to catch up to people.
Two in the peloton. It's down to around about the 1 minute mark.
And then on two occasions,
I would say, once we come to the climb of the road,
my power cut out.
to get there, we've got a nasty little climb that's been put in called the Côte de Forges, 231 kilometers covered. Once we go over the Côte de Forges, we're looking at 31 kilometers or 40 minutes of racing to go to the finish. There we go. Those are the two riders caught halfway across the gap. 103 is Australian rider from Team Sky, Nathan Earl. These two, I think, they're about to raise the white flag now. They know they're not going to ride across the two leaders, and the better part of Father now will be to raise that flag, try and get a little bit of rest in the main field, and hope to finish the long escapade they started after just 12 kilometers of racing. That was as the race came away from Liège. 10:15 this morning, the race pulled out of the Place Lambert, just outside of the 16th century Palais of the Bishops of Liège. Prince Évêque, turning off the main road. This is the little road now to go and find the Côte de Forges. The gap is still not very much at all. Well, Venter and Bono are still holding on, bravely holding on, I would say, to in excess of the 1 minute margin over the front end of the main field. But they know that very shortly that peloton is going to start to turn off some screws as they get to the Côte de Forges.
which is a narrow climb, very steep. It's actually been resurfaced over the last 12 months. So we get a chance. The two leaders, you can see them just around the corner there, just in front of that motorbike. Their gap is about 5 or 6 seconds over the front end of the peloton. As I said earlier, the rider who attacked over the top of the Côte de la Redoute, a former winner of the under-23 edition of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, back now with Bono Amenta, South African rider wearing number 228 of Team MTN Quebec. They've survived a very long day, almost 6 hours in the saddle for these two riders, as the two chasers now are getting picked up by the main field. The narrow little road there is that common E25 and motorway just in the background there. That's not a very large main field. So, just looking to see which teams are trying to control the front end of this. And next to most important thing, I don't think we'll see a move coming on the Côte de Forge, but we'll see a number of teams of the big guys who want to win this race overall, trying to place their riders towards the front end of this peloton, so they're in a good position once they come to the Côte de Rochefort, just down there. Again, an operational farm. Nice little tennis court down in the back.
Okay, I've just messaged Matt of where to put the power down.
Celsius here in the heart of the Ardennes. Peloton was stretched out into a very long line now, 33 kilometers. You can see the two leaders, or the two riders who are halfway across the gap, slipping down the main field, looking for their mates to have a quick chat. Where have you been all day? Well, sorry mate, I've been in the breakaway since this morning. Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Vendan and Bono are still leading. 1892, this event was organised for the first time. This is the 100th edition. Vendan now looks to be paying for that long day at the head of the event. As he starts to suffer a little bit, there's the flag of the Wallonie just over on the right-hand side. The cock on it, on that yellow flag. Got his radio in there to get information. He cannot stay with Bono. Bono says, mate, I'm off. I can't wait for you any longer. I've got to see what I can do in a situation like this. So Matteo Bono now of Lampre and Italy is the last survivor. Now he's starting to open up a serious little gap. Matteo Bono there is the main field, a hairpin turn for them. There's not very many more than about 60 riders left in that group from the 197 starters. There's Gilbert on nervous over on the right-hand side. Marcus Burkhardt in the lime green shoes for BMC, also looking after his teammate, making sure he keeps him up to the front. Now everybody's starting to wonder what's going to happen to this Portuguese rider, Nelson Simões from Lampre, who was doing a little bit of pacemaking. There's Kwiatkowski there in the white jersey with the red band around the middle, and national champion of Poland. Also over on the left-hand side, the Luxembourg national champion as well, riding for Trek Factory Racing. That's Bob Jongels. He's a good rider who put a special move in down
towards the end. Matteo Bono is not losing very much time here, but now he's on his own at it as we come down to around about 32 kilometers to go. So 32 k's to go for the one lone leader, and he's got 57 seconds over the peloton. Formerly South African national champion, the first African ever to wear the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, gifted to him by his teammate Simon Gerrans. They're all paying now, aren't they? They're popping one at a time. Marcus Burkhardt over on the far side with those lime green shoes of his. They've become the trademark. Kevin Retzer, 196 at Europcar. It's tough, this climb now. We're starting to slowly but surely scramble up this Côte de Forge. Also there over on the far side, Rory Sutherland, his job done for the day. He's trying to set it up for his teammate, Roman Kreuziger. That's what it's all about, sacrificing yourself for the teammate and the team leader. Also slipping away now there, you can see Bram tanking. That's a bit of a surprise for Belkin. Obviously not the man with the gas this afternoon. Garmin. Now this is an interesting move here. as we see Garmin waiting to see if there's going to be any response at all. 51 seconds is the gap. Just a little move, a little dig to make it that little bit more difficult. Reaction coming from Belkin. Everyone looking over the shoulder. When you see riders looking over their shoulders like that, that's an indication everybody's legs hurt. 500 meters now to the summit of the Côte de Forges. Bono will be the first man to go over the top of that climb, just as he was over the summit of the Côte de la Redoute. Leaves 2 more climbs. Here he is. We just about missed that. 41 seconds. 42. 42. Bono goes over the top. 40 seconds. That's around about 600 meters. On these long straight roads now, they'll start to see the shadow of this man who they haven't seen since around about 11:15 this morning.